by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. All fired up. All fired up. All fired up. All fired up, fired up, fired up. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Right there. Where do we look? Where do we look? Right there. Here we go. So welcome to ReneMarie Stroke of Luck. I'm ReneMarie. And we have a wonderful, another great show that Judy put together. So thank you, Judy.
You're
on the
welcome.
End. How are you, Judy?
I'm very relaxed.
Yes, we missed you last week. I don't know if you were watching the show, Marlon and the
I didn't get to see it yet.
Life's Next Chapter said, "Oh my God, we miss Judy."
Oh,
They
thank
love
you.
Nancy, but we miss Judy.
I was in the Bahamas.
Nice life. Tell us a little bit, Judy. Tell us a
Well,
little
we
bit.
went on a cruise on Anthem of the Seas, and we stopped in Florida, where we went to Cocoa Beach.
Wow.
Because we've been to Universal and all the studios a million times.
Right.
And then we went to their private island, Coco Cay, which was fantastic.
Wow.
And it was 84 to 85, maybe more. It felt like really hot. And then we went to the Bahamas.
Wow. You know, it's we always talk about this on the show, and Venise, our return guest. Hi, Venise. How are you? Let me introduce Venise before we begin to talk. Venise is the owner and president of Sunshine Physical Therapy. Thank you for coming back.
You're welcome.
We're very honored to have you. But let's talk about something that Judy just brought up, that, you know, when you, in life, you need to rest. You need to take downtime. You need to listen to your body. Am I correct? Is that part of all the physical therapy? I mean, even for people that haven't experienced a trauma in their life or a difficulty that they need physical therapy, they really do need some downtime and balance and meditation and peace and some relaxation.
Definitely. That's how the body heals.
Yes.
That's how, you know, the immune system gets strengthened. That's how the muscles, it's not in the exercise that the muscles get stronger. It's in the rest period that the muscles get stronger.
That's very
That's why if you do heavy exercise, you should do it every other day, not every day. You never want to do the same muscle group 2 days in a row, or you don't want to tax it 2 days in a row. Otherwise, instead of getting stronger, you get weaker.
Wow,
The
that's
muscles break
pretty
down.
interesting. That's pretty interesting. And you never, you know what I mean, in general, I guess somebody like yourself or a physical therapist that you are, or an exercise instructor would know that. But the general public really doesn't know that particular piece of information. They go out and they push the pavement and they try to do.
And unfortunately, that's how they get these repetitive stress injuries, or there's something called overtraining, where you get weaker, not stronger, when you push yourself to the limit.
Wow.
And I'm a yoga instructor as well as a Pilates instructor. Even in yoga, they say, now you rest at the end. If you've ever done yoga, you do Shavasana.
Yes.
That's when the yoga takes effect. That's when the neurological system gets the effect of the yoga. That's when your body heals.
Wow. That's
So
pretty
you
interesting.
need to have that balance in life.
Yes, yes.
Wow. Wow. Well, Judy just experienced it, and
Yes.
she's fresh.
Actually, I'm so tired. I'm more tired after the vacation than because you're walking back and forth on the ship, up and down the steps, because you become impatient waiting for the elevators with 4,000 people on board.
Wow, 4,000
And then
people
you
on the
go
ship.
out.
How does it not sink? That's what I want to know.
And then you go out, you know, to wherever you're going, and you're doing a tremendous amount of walking there. So.
Right. It's pretty, and I mean, that blows me away that a ship can have 4,000 people and a plane can have and go up. Like
This
those
is a
dynamics
remarkable
are
ship.
incredible.
They have a room called 270, which costs them millions of dollars. People, during the show, people actually come up from the floor and down from the ceiling.
Wow.
And all kinds of 3D actions are going on. They have a music hall, and they have, of course, the theater. They have bumper cars. They have some kind of, I don't know, I think it's called OnStar or something, where you can go into a little container up above the ship, and then it goes around over the water, which I did not do.
That's incredible.
Andrew did it.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Well, you were missed, and thank you.
Thank you.
We're glad that you enjoyed yourself.
Had a lot of fun.
Yeah, last week's show was good. It was good. My question of today is: this is, of course, the Thanksgiving season, and we really should be grateful for our lives, and we should be grateful every day. But this just brings to light Thanksgiving and really grateful. So my question to everybody, and I just posted it on Facebook and asked everybody, is what are you thankful for? Let us know. And I have my phone in front of me, and Jim's got it streaming on his as well. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you're grateful for. Toward the end of the show, we'll review some and we'll talk about it. And if you're still there, if you want to join in and say something, please post it on Facebook. We're watching. But why Venise came back was we had Venise on, I guess, was it a year ago, Venise?
Yes, a little over a year.
A little over a year. Wow, time just flies. So Venise came on our show a year ago, and she came for physical therapy, and that's her expertise, and she spoke about yoga, and she spoke about Tai Chi. You do
Pilates.
But in the midst, she shared with us, and we had no idea she had experienced this. Her grandmother and her dad suffered a stroke, and we're like, oh my God, like it affects every single person. Every single person either knows somebody or it's in your family directly, or you experience a stroke. It has no discrimination on who it affects, and it really comes out of left field sometimes, a stroke, because we're so occupied and busy in our lives that we're not seeing the signs. And this show is really about making it very prevalent, the signs, because life takes over in 2 seconds. I'll give you a small example. My stepfather just passed, my grandmother just passed, and I was putting things away from my grandmother yesterday, and I just found out I need a new boiler. Like life gets in the way. So we have to be aware of, ourselves with health, and because the boiler can be replaced, health can't be replaced. And if you don't know, you don't get to the hospital within a 4.5 hour window, which Dr. Beculus had given us a little leeway, but that doesn't mean that you should wait. If you ever have any thought that it could be someone who suffers a stroke, or you see somebody that isn't acting the normal way that they usually do, or the way that people should be acting, call 911. It's
Time
as
is
easy
of
as that.
the essence.
Yes.
Because every minute that you waste, you're losing brain cells that may not come back.
Yes. And we always say that when you call 911, we added something onto that, is to please tell the 911 dispatcher that it can be a stroke, because they will go into stroke mode. But let's let Venise talk a little bit about, who had their stroke first?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother. So tell us a little bit about your. Is it? I guess it is a history in your family since they both suffered a stroke. But talk to us about that.
Well, actually, different sides.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, different
Wow.
sides of family. So my grandmother is on my mom's side, so my maternal grandmother. I was in physical therapy school, and after the first year of physical therapy school, Grandma had a stroke. She was in her early 70s at the time. And after the rehab center, it affected her left side. So it was a right hemiparesis with left, she had right CVA with left hemiparesis. She couldn't use her arm or her leg very well.
That's
And
what happened with
How
my
old
dad.
was she when this happened?
73.
73, which is young.
Yeah, that's
Which
young.
is young nowadays.
Not as young as my dad, so we'll go over it.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And that was, something in the family. She was definitely not one to exercise. She sat around a lot. Although she was Italian, Mediterranean diet, but she liked her pasta and she liked her bread.
Yes.
And she didn't exercise, unlike some other people. So I remember being in physical therapy school and she really not wanting to move her arm. And the first day I said, Grandma, you have to move that arm. And it took 20 minutes of me prodding her to put on her sweater, because all she wanted to do was say, Venise, help me with this sweater. And I said, no, you have to do it yourself. And that encouraged her to move more and to get back a lot of her,
Yes.
her
Because
strength.
people care so much about the family that
That's
they
right.
want to help them. But actually, sometimes you're not really helping them by assisting them
Exactly.
doing
That's
it.
true.
You have
That's
to
true.
kind of encourage them to try it by themselves. Sometimes they can't, so you do it, and the next time you say, okay, let's try again. Am I correct in my thought patterns?
Very true. And she had a mild one, but she could have been disabled to the point that she needed nursing home, but she didn't. She stayed with us.
Very lucky.
She was very lucky,
Wow.
where she wound up moving in with us, and my mom took care of her. And
Wow.
she lived another 12 years after that, and she was able to walk. After a while, she needed a cane, but not from the stroke, and she was able to get 80% back because, those motor functioning.
How was her
routine.
speech?
She had no problem with her speech.
That's good.
Well, was that because it was the
On the other
left
side. Mhm. Yep.
The left
My
side,
father
right?
didn't
Yeah.
have any problem with his speech either, but he had a bleed. But it affected his left side.
Yeah, she had a thrombus, a clot, and once that dissipated, in a good 6 to 8 weeks, she was back.
Wow.
It
Did
takes
she
a long
have
time.
any headaches before it happened? Excuse me.
No, she had no headaches before
No.
it happened.
Yeah, that was my question. Did she have any, like a headache, but did she
It's
have
my-
any signs? Did she have any signs
Any
that
signs
anyone
at
who was
all?
aware of?
Not that she verbalized, but she was a very
But
quiet
nothing
woman.
that you saw.
Nothing
or
that
your mother
well, she wasn't living with us at the time.
Yeah, she was home. Right. Yes, yes.
Because
So,
my dad had a severe killer headache, and he didn't tell us.
that's
He
very
told the
common.
neighbors, but he didn't tell us.
Wow.
Very common.
Yeah, and that's why we tell everybody to, whether it's your family, your friends, no matter who it is, if somebody says something to you, like I'm having a killer headache, maybe reach
I would
out
get
to
them
the
right
family.
to the hospital.
Yeah, or maybe reach out to the family and let them know.
Right.
Yeah.
Just they're
Killer head.
they're having a killer headache.
Exactly, or having trouble speaking, dropping things.
They can't extend their arms. Their face
Tingling.
is drooping. Their
Yep.
speech is
Wow.
not right.
It's
Wow.
true.
That's incredible. But she was blessed to be able to, recover, because I know the older you are, the harder it is to recover.
It's
Am
true.
I correct in my
That
thought
is
patterns?
100% right.
Yeah. I guess the body just can't.
We don't have as much what they call collateral circulation. So you can't, the body's amazing, the brain's amazing, and so you have all these pathways that can fill in for the dead area in the brain.
Wow.
So in her case, she was very lucky, but it was a very mild stroke in comparison to others. It took 6 to 8 weeks for the clot to be absorbed, and then
I see.
and then with physical therapy, she was able to get back.
Wow.
for recovery. She had no spasticity, only atrophy.
My
What's
father
spastic?
had where your arm freezes.
Oh.
And I did try exercising my dad's left leg and his arm. And they asked me to stop. And they put a brace on his arm, and then it locked up. So I was very upset about that.
Yeah.
I know with me, because my arm is still, an issue. But when it's warm, it's better. When I get cold, it kind of like
Gets
Freezes
stiffer.
up.
freezes up. But when it's warm and it's massaged, it actually, I can use it like normal, you
Right.
know. But I have to think about using it. First of all, I gotta be aware that it needs some warmth to it.
Does it go into a flexion synergy?
Yeah,
So that's
Yeah.
spasticity.
that's spasticity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have when we're born, we have very primary pathways. And the arm, it's more of a flexion pathway, and the leg, it's more of an extension pathway. And as the body develops and becomes more complex, you are able to break through those primary pathways. So again, when you're tense, or when you think you're going to fall, you probably don't even realize it. You go into that
Yeah.
flexion synergy or spasticity,
And
and
if
the
you-
leg tenses up and go into extension synergy.
Yeah, and I know that it's a lot has to do with defragmenting your brain.
Right.
And I know there's probably a professional term to that, which you could tell us what that is. But I know sometimes I have to stop and think about what I'm doing to use it, so that I'm using it in the proper fashion. What's the professional terminology?
Motor learning.
Defragment. I'm talking in people term. Defragmenting your brain. Everything's got to go back into place.
Right. Yeah. Or
But if you don't-
neuromodulation.
If you don't get the proper physical therapy, it freezes up.
Right.
Right. So then the joints fuse in that.
Right.
And that's what happened, I guess, to your dad.
Yeah, and they cut off his physical therapy very early because he wasn't responding fast enough for them. So the insurance cut out. And
Yeah.
I tried to take him off premises because he had to go to a nursing home. But it was too expensive.
Wow.
Well, years ago, I worked in a rehab hospital, and 80% of the patients I treated were stroke patients, and they'd be there for 6 to 9 months, getting 5, 6, 8 hours of therapy between speech, occupational, and.
They cut it off very early.
But now it's 6 to 8 weeks maximum.
It's so sad.
So from 6 to 8 months to
it's-
6 to 8 weeks.
It's so, and that's our biggest. I don't want to say complaint. That's the wrong terminology. Our biggest concern. That's what
It's one
we
of our
are-
mission statements.
one of our mission statements to help those that their insurance has run out. However, we're really working very intensely on coming to a solution with the insurance companies and the politicians, because
Right.
they defend us. They're supposed to defend us in understanding, like, okay, we understand that there's a budget for everything, but money shouldn't be the answer to someone's health. You should get the recovery or the rehabilitation as you need it. And when you suffer a stroke, sometimes it could be a lifelong
Right.
thing that you need to go back.
And if you do not get the physical therapy that you need, the situation is going to get worse. And it could become spastic.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do they do? I'm sorry,
No.
Venise. What do they do? Like if somebody has had a stroke, like say myself, and I go into you 3 or 4 years later because I mean, I guess it's a doctor that would have to determine it.
Mm-hmm.
But does it still go under the same the past history of my stroke, or will they?
Well, that becomes under past history. So the new diagnosis. So insurance right now only wants to cover short-term rehabilitative care.
Yeah.
Anything that is chronic, and chronic could be defined anything longer than 6 months or 3 months. So, and, diabetes, arthritis, having a stroke, that would be considered something that's more chronic. So they only like to have us rehab subacute or short-term rehabilitation, 6 to 8
That's
weeks.
totally
So
wrong.
right now, the diagnosis wouldn't come in as a stroke because that you already had that. The diagnosis would have to come in as shoulder stiffness or shoulder pain or history of falls or elbow stiffness, more that. And then again, you'd be able to get physical therapy, but only for a short period of time.
So how do you resolve the health concern or problem that someone has when that's what the insurance companies are approving?
In my mind, I think that what's happening nationally is everything, insurance-wise, is everything's going to be just catastrophic care, and so people are going to have to pay for this short-term care or pay for things that really make a difference to them, just like they pay for dental care if you don't have dentistry, or eyeglasses or hearing aids, unfortunately. Otherwise, you run the risk of having a fall, and then, of course, insurance will kick in then, when you have that fractured hip or whatever. But it is frustrating. It's frustrating as a physical therapist.
I'm sure.
It's very frustrating as a physical therapy association. We fight all the time. We have big political action committees and go to Albany as well as to Washington, D.C. all the time, fighting for...
Renee also did that.
Yeah, fighting
So-
for rehab.
Well, so when you go, who do you talk to? What goes on when you go to Washington or to Albany? Who do you talk to?
Usually in Albany, and I've done that for over 20 years, we talk to the legislators. Sometimes you get to meet with them, both the state senators and the state congressmen. Sometimes you're dealing with their legislative aides, but you voice their concerns. You voice always the patient's advocacy.
Right.
And if there are bills in Albany or DC that go against what's going to be for the betterment of the patient, you go in and you tell them why. Sometimes I've had patients write petitions or letters, and you fight. But it's really been a wonderful experience for me. It took 20 years, I can tell you, because I've been there over 20 years. Going up to Albany, sometimes once, twice a year. But it took 20 years for New York State, as well as all the other states. But in New York, I know specifically to get what they call direct access. So you could see a physical therapist without a prescription.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it took 20 years of going up there, explaining and showing that we're getting physical therapy prescriptions that just say physical therapy anyway. Because the fight was, well, you can't take x-rays. How do you know? How do you know if there's a tumor? How do you know if there's cancer? And we would bring up stories. I would bring up stories that I was the one that caught the cancer possibility and sent the patient to the doctor. Or had photocopies of prescriptions without names, but just said physical therapy or low back pain. And so I said, look, we're getting prescriptions now that are pretty generic, why can't we see the patient directly? And then, of course, patients would say, well, look, it takes a month for us to even see the doctor to see.
That's so true.
Yeah, and there's lingering.
Right.
Things get worse when you don't take care of them immediately.
And then we had a lot of studies that even Blue Cross Blue Shield of Maryland even did, where they said if you have immediate care, the number of visits would be significantly lower.
Say it again.
Say someone went to physical therapy for a low back pain, and then in a week, it might take only 2 or 3 visits. If they waited a month, it might take 8 to 10.
Right. And the truth is, why should the insurance companies have to pay the doctors when they can go directly to physical therapy? They're paying for something. Why? Because it's a procedure. Why should they have to pay the expensive doctor bill when they can go directly to you and be serviced? And
obviously, we are able to evaluate and know when someone should be referred out. If someone had a trauma, fell off of a ladder, I'm touching their body part that hurts, we know the type of diagnostic test and say, you know what, I really think that you should have an x-ray first. It happened just last week. This gentleman, I'm seeing him for knee surgery, and he tripped and fell and hurt his wrist. And came to me, urgent care, said, no, it's not broken. I did my tests. I said, I think this is broken. I think you should see an orthopedist. 2 weeks later, he finally made the appointment with the doctor, because again, it took 2 weeks.
Right.
Now it's 2.5 weeks after the initial injury. He came in the other day with a splint. He said, the orthopedist said that I have a fracture. It was missed on the urgent care. But my tests that I did in the office said, I think you have a fracture.
Right. Which is good, because you guys know what to look for.
Yes, and
you know.
the red sign, and the red flags, as we call it.
Yes.
The red flags.
That's my concern with, you know, when urgent care or emergency rooms. We had a gentleman on last week, 2 weeks ago, that was talking about the ER and how they misdiagnosed his.
No, not Steve.
Steve didn't catch
The one
his
with the motorcycle
Yes,
accident?
yes. I don't think they caught his stroke. I don't think they caught his stroke.
No, I think you're talking about the couple where
Oh yes.
she went, Deanna.
Yes.
Deanna went to
You're correct.
Deanna went to visit her sister who needed some medical help and to go to the hospital and find out about tests. The next day, she went into the bathroom of her sister's house and she had a stroke. They sent her to Greenwich Hospital.
Don't say what. Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know the name of it was a hospital in that neighborhood. And they did not know what was wrong with her. And she got transferred 2 or 3 more times. And that's sad.
Yeah.
A hospital should know
Yeah.
when someone's had a stroke.
And the reason I'm sorry, Jude, I didn't want. No, the reason is because sometimes we don't like to.
Well, I don't know the
Name-
name
yeah,
of the
yeah,
hospital.
okay.
I know it was in that
Okay.
Vicinity.
Only because
in that area.
Yeah, we don't want to point fingers.
Yes, I
Our
understand
concern is just like the resolve the situation with the urgent care.
Yeah, I meant that it was in that town of, or
in that general facility.
in that county of.
And the
Greenwich.
reason we brought that up was because we keep hearing the same diagnosis, and the truth is they're just people too, you know.
That's right.
So we learn from that, and we tell our audiences, like, if you're really, your family has to be your circle around you, and if things are not looking or going in the direction that you think is correct or feels right to you, get a second opinion.
Well, the other thing people don't realize, we as medical professionals are not mind readers.
Of course not.
So if you're going into the emergency room, or you're going to a doctor, and my arm hurts, or I'm having tingling, or I'm having tingling around my mouth, or I had slurred speech. They don't know if you had slurred speech if you only had it in the morning.
Right.
And you take an anticoagulant, or you take an aspirin anyway because your doctor said everyone after a certain age should have a baby aspirin, and then the symptoms get a little better. But you don't tell the physician that, or you don't tell the ER staff that. I was in the ambulance corps for 12 years in Comac. You don't tell the ambulance workers all of those things. And they say all the time, "Oh, I thought you would have figured it out." Just like in a hospital. I'm serious. That's what they say.
They think you're mind
well,
readers,
you know,
right.
you're mind reader. And so, well, they'll forget. And there's so many times patients will come to me and say, "Oh, you know, I forgot to tell the doctor that it bothers me, blah, 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 at night, or that I fell 2 weeks prior." And it's only weeks later that they realize.
Right.
So, you know, that's the key. That's the take home. Don't think that everybody, just because you're going in there and they're taking your blood pressure or they're taking your
You have to
your
remember, and if
pulse.
you can't remember, you should write down what you want to talk to the doctor about. Make a list.
Right. And when you're in the emergency room and you're maybe a little dazed or you're having signs of a stroke, and so your cognitive ability is not where it should be,
Yeah, that's what I was
you know,
just
you
thinking.
always have to have someone there
Yeah.
that said, "Oh yeah, you know, he's been forgetful. He left the lights on when he never leaves the lights on, or she left the stove on These are
Wow.
little
Yeah.
symptoms that, or they were always great. Even my dad, he was always great at adding three things together. He was a salesperson in the city, and he started to have problems with numbers. That
Wow.
was his
So
first
what
symptom.
happened with your dad? In the beginning, did you see signs?
No, he when he had his stroke, and he had a stroke at age 56.
Wow.
And it was right after Christmas, so everyone was eating all this great Italian food with the all the fat and staying up late,
Yes,
and
yes.
and
a few drinks
a
here
lot
and
of
there.
Prosciutto.
prosciutto, gabagool, and
Yes.
salami,
Yes.
all the fried
Pepperoni.
fish,
All right,
Zeppelin.
You're making me hungry.
Anyway.
And the cheeses.
Right, and staying up late, not sleeping well, and he wasn't a drinker, but he was a 2.5 pack smoker a day, and he worked
So
in
was my
Manhattan in the garment center, and at work one day, he didn't feel good. He had a tremendous headache, and all of a sudden he started to have slurred speech, and they rushed him to a neighboring hospital. And they found out, and he was severely aphasic at the time, so it was affected his whole right side. So he had a left CVA with right hemiparesis, and they checked his carotid arteries. He was only 56, high cholesterol, and also overweight, and so that ran in his family the high cholesterol, hypercholesteremia, and always on diet pills, always trying different things over the years.
Did he go to the doctor on a regular basis?
Yeah, he went to the doctor, and the doctor would say his blood pressure's fine, his heart is fine. At the time, they didn't do carotid artery
artery.
checks. So this is back in 89.
And they really, I don't think that they had looked at the whole preventative.
No, they didn't.
They,
And
they weren't really preventative inspired, like
Right.
now you tell us to eat right, and it's all a balance in your life.
Right.
I'm noticing also that sometimes, different doctors, but sometimes when you go to a doctor and you say you're going to get a full checkup, and you leave there and you start to recall the things that they forgot to do.
Mm.
And you're so absorbed in what's going on that you didn't realize it at the time, but there were things that were important that they forgot to do.
Yeah.
Well, again, and they're not mind readers, so if you forget to tell them, every once in a while I have a chest pain.
Well,
or
those
every
are
once
the
in a while I have a
obvious things,
stomach ache, but you don't have it the day that you go. Now, how are you feeling today? They'll say, how are you feeling today, Jude? Yeah, anything bothering you? You say no. But you forgot to tell them, well, you know what? Every morning when I wake up, or every morning when I have every night when I have a big meal and I'm lying down and I go to sleep within an hour, I have this chest pain. So,
I do recall in the past, not currently, but in the past, going to a doctor, and they were going to do a full checkup, and there were things left out. Yet when we went to my husband's union doctor, there wasn't a thing that you could imagine that they left out. I mean, they were so thorough.
Yeah, I trust my doctor. I have Dr. Herman in Fair Lawn, and he's been a family doctor for years, and he's the type that sits, listens, talks.
Yes, I have a doctor
he's
now,
not in a hurry.
family doctor, that
Yeah.
really listens and is very thorough. But I've had, in the past, a doctor that
Yeah.
and that's the frustration of managed care. A lot of the doctors are complaining
They're-
about that because
they're in
have
such a rush.
they're in a
Yeah.
rush. They have
They're
to
triple booked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
and why? I'm sorry, Judy.
no, that's okay.
Is that an insurance thing now? They got to get so many
Yeah.
clients
It's an
in.
efficiency thing.
An efficiency thing.
And and they know how many, because everything's evidence based. Everything is documented by either the big group, or if they're part of a big group, and they say they need to do an evaluation every so many minutes, whether it's 6, 18, 20. Everything's documented by time. It's
All
not
I can
coded.
say is, if you've got a doctor like that, you should switch. Because the doctor should sit, and I have one now that
Yeah.
sits and listens and really is thorough. But as I said, there are many out there that are so rushed that they're
Well,
not
that's why a
doing
lot of physicians are burning out, because they
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
true.
they cannot be physicians
Yeah.
the way that they really wanted to be, because they have to be
Right.
business people.
And I use my he's what is he? He's a heart doctor. What's an
Cardiologist?
Cardiologist, but he's an
Internist.
internist. Yes, yeah, he's an internist. But I use him as my base for everything. You know, when I had spine 2 discs and herniated in my spine, I used him to recommend, so that he knew always what was going
Right.
on.
And it's not a
know.
bad idea to have a heart specialist, to have the family doctor, to have a heart specialist.
Oh, absolutely.
And to know of a neurologist in case you have some symptoms that a neurologist could address specifically.
We always talk about building your circle around you.
Yes.
Whether it's an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, a physical therapist. So you have that circle around you, so you don't have to go scamming, searching around when the situation
And
happens.
don't pick a doctor just because he's local. Pick him because he's got the background you're looking for.
Right. Well, that's why it takes time to research and to ask people and to really go meet them.
Right.
And sometimes I'm sure doctors don't have time to just meet with people because they want to meet them.
No.
So how would you go about
true.
doing that if they wanted to, interview a doctor or get to know them? How would they do that if they couldn't schedule an appointment with them?
Well, you can go on their health grades. There's something called healthgrades.com, and then a lot of people do that. And it really, and you as a physician, physical therapist, can't put things on it beyond maybe your philosophy or the insurances that you accept and your schooling. But everything's on there, whether it's malpractice history, whether it's affiliations, and patient comments too. So that would be a first step. Go on health grades. The next thing is you'd call the office and see if they would meet, or at least the PA, or some big offices have a patient coordinator. People come into my office all the time to meet me, which never happened 20 years ago.
I mean, all you have to do is just go for a checkup and see how you feel about the doctor.
I think it's just a
After you-
connection. I think
true.
when you meet that person, and how they talk to you, how they interact with you, that's so important. Bedside manners really are a big part of in my world of somebody that I want on my team.
I remember a doctor going into his office, and he was on a computer almost the whole time. I said, excuse me, but I'm over here.
Wow. So let's go back to your dad.
Sure.
So your dad, he suffered it was a major stroke.
Major stroke,
Major
and they
stroke.
did they did in the first 2 hours. They checked his carotid arteries, and they found that one had been totally blocked, and then the other side had a 70% blockage.
Wow.
So they decided to do emergency surgery on the 70% blocked side,
Wow.
and he recovered.
Wow.
He needed many months of physical therapy. It took over a year. And the neurologists will say it'll take 18 months to 2 years. At best, you get recovery a millimeter a day or an inch a month.
Wow.
So, that first 6 to 8 weeks, that's when you see a lot of the major changes. But then gradually he got better. He didn't think he would able to go back to work, but he did in fact go back to work after the first year. And
Was he fully recovered?
he had some slowness with math computations, and some memories, and he would always be one that you gave him a list of 20 because he was a salesperson.
He could figure it out.
He could figure it out. He could, count all the numbers in 1, 2, 3, or he would remember that you were from, it was all high-end, better dresses. So you were from Neiman Marcus, and Neiman Marcus liked style 103, 110, and you wanted 3 of size 6 and 5 of size 8.
Right.
And he couldn't remember as much of that, and so he had to rely then on paper. But unfortunately for him, he slowly went back to smoking. So he had multiple strokes along the way, but 56 was the big one, and then he wound up having his last stroke. So he had about 4 or 5, but along the way, he would go very quickly to by the ambulance, and they do the TPA, the clot busting medication, and he'd recover. His last one, when he was 71, they weren't sure if how long he had the symptoms, and it's very important to get to the hospital right away.
I know.
Years ago, they had a 2-hour window, and if for the TPA, and they weren't sure if in fact it would it was a hemorrhage, a embolism, or a thrombus, a clot. So they wanted to do a CAT scan, and me being the physical therapist and being the patient advocate and knowing about this 2-hour window, I'm pacing the emergency room saying, when are you going to do give him his TPA? And they said, oh, we have to wait for a CAT scan. We're very busy. And
but time is of the essence. You can't.
And unfortunately, it was done in more than 2 hours. And to find out he wasn't a hemorrhage, he wasn't a bleed, he was truly a clot. They weren't able to give it to him, and he wound up having verbal apraxia.
What's apraxia?
So apraxia is different than aphasia. So with aphasia, you have trouble either speaking, verbal, or understanding, receptive, or both, which is global aphasia.
I see.
So that you can't get the words out because you can't remember the word. Or I'll say good morning and you're not understanding good morning. Or lift up your arm and you're not. Where apraxia,
you're not saying it.
You can't coordinate the muscles in the mouth. So he wasn't able, so he would talk about his muscles. And even though he had speech therapy, it wouldn't work for him. He had lost his gag reflex also. So they had to put a G tube in. And although he was able to use his leg, he was able to use his arm, and he had the verbal apraxia and the G tube. And with the G tube and the had apraxia, he needed to be suctioned 2 and 3 times a day. So he needed 24-hour care. So you have to understand, as a physical therapist, understanding that could have been prevented.
Well, that's why, we always tell people to let the 911, and you let them know back then they didn't move as quickly.
Right. The 911 people, the emergency room people were great. They brought him straight to the hospital. But that 2-hour window, that's now longer than 2 hours.
Yeah, it's 4.5 hours, but Dr. Beculus says it's a little extended, but we don't want to give people too much time.
Right.
Because people take advantage of that time. But I was an ambassador on a committee for strokes in Valley Hospital in Ridgewood. And I was sat with all the doctors and the ambulances and everybody sat at a meeting once a month, and they said that if you let them know that it could be a stroke, they will pass up triage nowadays, and if it's determined that it is not a blood, but they'll start the procedure really quick
right away,
because they know that time is of the essence when it's a stroke. That's why everything, like you said, is letting them know as much as you can, because that way they're more informed and they know what they have to do. Jim, did you put a photo up of her dad? Mm-hmm. You did? Okay. So could you put the photo up of aphasia, which talks about how it feels to be aphasic? This is how I felt when I was aphasic. Let it come up on the screen so that I could see it. This is a little delayed. So he's going to put it up in 2 seconds on the screen. But aphasia is really important. I know we do stroke awareness, but aphasia is really important. Here we go. Let's see. So I describe it like being disoriented. You really don't know where you are, what you're doing. You're in an unknown space, and that's really scary to be in that unknown space. Imagine being in that when you're aware of when
Right.
you don't know what's going on, but to be so disoriented, it's scary. I felt lost. I didn't know. I just felt lost, and that lingered for well after my recovery, because it was something that was something that I didn't know I felt that way until I became aware of it. Frustrated. I was very sensitive. Oh, thank you, Jim. Oh, did you print this?
Well, no, but I took it off the screen because, like you said before, you didn't want it up too long.
Oh, I love you,
I'm
Jim.
sorry, I didn't know what you were
are
saying.
the best.
I didn't know what you were saying.
Yay! So, Jim is the best. So, yes, very sensitive what people were telling me. And I went right back into the mainstream of life.
Right.
So, like your father, my brain was different than when I originally went to work.
They actually call that being emotionally labile, when you go high and low. And we saw that in patients in the rehab center. One day, and 1 second they're laughing, and the next second they're crying. They don't even know why they're crying. They don't know why they're laughing inappropriately.
And that's also a sign of a stroke.
Yeah.
Right.
Emotionally labile.
And then I felt shattered, like and I can't even explain it. It's just like I felt like I describe it like, when a glass falls and all these little pieces are all over the ground, and now you have to pick them up one by one. How do you do that? Like, you need help, but you don't even know what has to be done. So it's really, and the why aphasia is so important, because when you suffer a stroke, you can see somebody's disabled, but when it's aphasia, you don't see it. It's in the brain.
True.
It's this silent, life-changing situation that goes on. So,
Renee, could I read just an overview?
Sure. One more I have, though.
Okay.
Confused. I was very confused. Very
Yep.
confused. So, Judy?
Aphasia is a communication disorder that results from damage or injury to language parts of the brain. It is more common in older adults, particularly those who have had a stroke. Aphasia gets in the way of a person's ability to use or understand words. Aphasia does not impair the person's intelligence. People who have aphasia may have difficulty speaking and finding the right words to complete their thoughts. They may also have problems understanding conversation, reading and comprehending written words, writing words, and using numbers. And you should be patient with them when you're talking with them.
Yeah, it's so true, and that's what I always remember. And there was a gentleman that came to put in my Cablevision one time, and he was a young guy, and he went to the hospital because he wasn't feeling well, and they thought he was on drugs because he was young, and because he wasn't speaking correctly, and the fact was he was having a stroke.
There you go.
So it's a scary thing. So just be aware, like Judy said, of someone that are not speaking correctly. Sometimes it's not what you think it is.
Right.
It's not what you think it is. So your dad, is he still alive?
No, he died 12 years ago, but he was 73 when he died.
Wow,
And
which is young.
Yeah, but when his first stroke was 56, so he had many years.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for the fact that he really didn't go back to exercise, and he gradually went back to smoking, he probably would
that
be here
was not
today.
a good idea.
Yeah. So, but like I said, his story will hopefully help others.
Definitely.
so that they can live well beyond. My mom just celebrated her 90th birthday. So
Yes, I
bless her.
heard.
Yeah.
I heard you had a wonderful party for
had
her.
a wonderful party, and so him not exercising, and she was always the opposite. She was the one that climbed trees and
Oh my God.
gardened and
Oh my God.
yeah, would lift, etc. So it really it's not only what you eat, but what you do exercise wise, and rest when you need to rest, and listen to your body, listening to the body signals, whether
Yes.
it's you feel run down, take a nap. You feel like you're pushing yourself, you feel a little tightness in your chest, your heart is racing.
Right.
You just had an appointment with the doctor last month, make another one.
Yeah.
Go to a local pharmacy and have your blood pressure taken, but not 2 hours from now, right when it's happening. But
That's
get a
right.
home
That's right.
BP kit. Check that often.
Isn't it important to have a baseline?
Yeah, definitely. But there are people, and my own brother-in-law, he wasn't feeling well. He was having chest pains, went to the emergency room. They did an EKG. Everything was fine. He came home. They said, oh, maybe you're having anxiety. I went through all the different cardiac tests with him. That was in the morning. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he had a massive heart attack and died. So
God.
things happen, but at the same time, when you're getting the symptoms, you need to run right then and there. And he did. But just because you had a normal EKG, say a month ago, or in the morning, doesn't mean that something
anything.
else can't be happening.
But isn't it sad, Venise, that you do, okay, I'm having chest pains, I run to the hospital, and you have to wait in the waiting room.
Well, now many of them, yeah, that's true. But you know what?
I want you to test me now so you can see what's going on.
Right, but and people don't realize there are two ways you get into the ER: by ambulance or you drive in.
It's better to go by ambulance because
Always.
you'll be seen
Right away.
immediately.
Stat,
you walk
as they call
in,
them.
you
Yeah.
walk in. That's another story.
Yeah, so you need to just call 911. Don't drive yourself. What if you don't feel good and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of, say, Jericho Turnpike, on the way, a major road, the LIE, and all of a sudden not feeling well turns into unconscious. Now you've caused accidents around you, and you could have been helped. So always, for various reasons, call 911.
And even if you have family around you, you should call 911.
911. If it's ABC, airway, breathing, circulation, those are 911. You don't go through the emergency room if you hurt your arm last week and oh my God, that's what the urgent care facilities are. I have a little sore throat. Go to the urgent care.
Right.
You don't use the emergency rooms
Of course.
except for emergencies, but people do.
I know.
Jim, I know we're running out of time, but could
Okay.
you put the fast just so we can share with everyone the stroke signs? Is it there?
Yep.
Okay, so we just want to remind everybody of the signs of a stroke. It's FAST, F-A-S-T. The F stands for face, if you see somebody's face drooping. The A stands for arms, if you can't keep your arm out, if it keeps going down. Am I correct? S is, I think it's 2. It's either smile, and you smile when one of your sides does not go up the same, like mine doesn't, because I've suffered a stroke, but one side doesn't. And also speech, if you're speaking in an unknown way, or you're slurring. And time is of the essence. You need to call 911. And like I said, and will say this till I'm blue in the face, is when you call 911, you are to tell them that it could be a stroke, because they will go into stroke mode. They'll be responsible to go into stroke mode, and they'll see if it is a stroke. They'll have an advanced heads up on what they're coming to deal with, and it really is important to do that. Venise, do you have anything else on the strokes and aphasia? Then we're going to go to the thankfulness. But
Well, one thing, when people come in there, they think all facial. You talked about facial. How to distinguish, say, a stroke from something called Bell's palsy.
That's right. That's
so the
right.
3 things with Bell's palsy is they can't wrinkle their forehead.
Oh,
They can't whistle.
I can't whistle. I
And they
think I was
can't-
born without a whistle. I've
and
tried.
they can't wink. All right, so with the stroke, you might be able to do those things, but with Bell's palsy, you can't.
I never knew that.
So
Wow.
the whistle,
Never
the
knew
3
that.
W's. The other thing, sometimes with the stroke, you'll if you look in their eyes, it'll be an uneven size. So that's another thing.
Wow. Yes.
So people think, oh, maybe I'm just having Bell's palsy, but if you can do at least 2 of the 3, so that's usually the signs. So that's what I would also add.
Wow, that's incredible.
Okay.
That's incredible. Well, as I said before, we're going to talk to everybody about what you're grateful for. Judy, go first.
Well, I'm very grateful for my husband, Andrew. I'm very happy, and we're just like one. We have the same thoughts, think the same things at the same moments. It's a beautiful life, and I love being with Andrew.
Yeah.
I do want to add that next week we've got Jim and Lisa Lennox coming, talking about wills, the importance of wills and trusts.
Okay, that's important stuff, and very important. Venise, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for many things.
I know.
I'm grateful for my health,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yes.
I'm grateful for my family and friends. I'm grateful for my God. I'm very spiritual, and I feel that that's very important. And I'm grateful for the love of my life.
Yay! Can he make a guest appearance?
Sure.
Sure. Come on over, Ernie. Well, Jim, before we talk to Ernie, and what are you grateful for, Jim?
I am grateful for my wife and her entire family, because during this time when I was going through my surgeries, they were, as a group, always there for me.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Get me out, take me to dinner, make me feel good, everything I needed.
Here, Ernie. Just because we're not seeing you in the photo.
Ah, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to sit with you.
I say the more the merrier. That's how I feel. There's never too many people on our show. So this is Ernie, and I didn't say this before, that was my dad's name.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Oh,
And
That's right.
my
Your dad's
spirit,
name is Ernie. Wow.
yes, and my spiritual take on why he came with you today was to tell me everything is going to be okay, because of the boiler breaking and just there's no, so
I believe in
thank you.
stuff like
yes.
that.
So thank you for
I
coming
think everyone
today.
should have an Ernie in their life.
Yes, absolutely. Listen,
Jim?
I'm waiting for Ernie to come into my life. Judy and I have been working that for a long
working on it.
time.
I used to be a great matchmaker. I don't know.
But it's okay. I'm blessed to work with everybody and to have my health and a second chance at life. So
You need to move to Long Island and make my job a little easier.
that's okay. I believe that when that person is meant to come into my life, they will
will.
be there without me having to work so hard. They will come in. They'll enter my life, and I'll notice them the way you guys just met off.
Yep.
You didn't plan it.
Nope.
You just it
Just
came-
happened.
Just came together. So I really believe that. So you're an accountant, Ernie?
I am. I'm the CPA. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
For a long time. Over 30 years.
Where are you?
You know what?
Right in Melville.
good.
Melville, New York.
Good. The only reason, because Jim, we're working with Jim to go on Cablevision,
Oh, yeah.
and they have some guidelines.
I know.
So
Understood.
I'm like aware of that. Like, okay, can we say on Cablevision?
Oh, no, I think you can say just about anything. You just can't
Promote?
promote in a commercial format or anything like that.
Okay. I just want to make sure because I'm really excited, Jim. And Jim doesn't know this, but we have, and I'm going to tell him now, that our show with Village Connection is now expanding to the Long Island and the New Jersey, Jim. Long Island and New Jersey. So we're on a way. And the bottom line is that the more areas that we have to to be shown, to be seen, the more exposure the strokes and aphasia and the hope. I mean, we want to bring hope to people that have had strokes, and we also want to prevent them from having strokes. You know, in my world, you know, people that pass from a stroke, it's devastating, but the more devastating thing is that it's the first cause of disability in the country. And to somebody to be left on this earth with the cause of a stroke, and it changes everybody. It
Totally agree.
It doesn't only affect that person.
I have a staffer of 12, and in the past month, I can tell you this, one of my staff person lost his grandfather to stroke. Yeah, and in the course of a week, had three strokes and passed away. So that one of my staff person's grandfather had a stroke. And Friday, one of my physical therapists that works for me, her friend's brother had a stroke. So that's in my little world.
Right.
So it's more prevalent than people realize.
Yeah, and you don't want it to affect you to become aware of it. You want to become aware of it, know the signs, so
And
that you
try
can be
to-
ahead of the game.
Right,
You
try
know.
to prevent it
Bec-
or get
bec-
them to a doctor immediately.
Right, because if you do go within that 4.5 hour window, the results can be
If you can get there before 4.5 hours, if you can get there within a half hour, an hour and a half, 2 hours,
That's
it's
key.
to your benefit to
Yeah.
get there as soon as you can.
and you can have it can really change the result of you being disabled or not disabled, and the length of disability. How am I saying that? Like the extent of disability that
Exactly.
you will have. What's that, Jen?
The duration.
Duration.
Yeah, the duration. So like we cannot.
Like one of
say
our
it
guests, Bob Mandel,
Yeah.
he had a stroke. He actually told when he called 911, he told them not to come. And he rolled himself down a flight of steps, and he waited. And when his wife finally got home, it took him 18 years to recover.
Yeah.
18 years because he didn't act immediately.
Well, because when you're suffering a stroke, this I can tell you from experience, that you don't know you need help. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't know what you need.
He didn't want
That's-
anyone
yeah.
breaking the door down.
Yeah.
Actually, that was more important than his life.
Oh my gosh. So, what are you grateful for?
Well, I will tell you, it's very simple. This person is a gift in my life, and every day is a blessing. So I'm a very lucky person. So we have each other. We have great children
Yeah.
and wonderful, family and friends and businesses. So
That's
grateful.
good. Yeah, life is good, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Life is good.
and we want the same for you too.
Yeah, it'll come. It'll come when it's meant to come. I'm blessed because my life is filled by itself. And now if somebody comes in,
I
there'll
know
be
that.
an added,
Blessing.
blessing. There'll be a blessing. Am I saying that in the correct? I mean, it's not that I don't want somebody, but my life is so filled and vibrant. And
You could say that again.
Yeah, and just I'm blessed. I just every day I surround myself, and just feel blessed.
And you're a very positive person.
Yeah. So, anyway, thank you, Venise.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Honey.
thank you.
Thank you so much,
And
Judy.
you're part of our family.
Yes.
You're
And
a permanent part of our family.
we're gonna have to
including
talk. We're gonna have to talk to Venise about our
Yes.
our March thing we're working
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
We'll tell you about that off camera.
Okay.
So thank you so much. I hope that everybody just enjoys the moment and today, and really be grateful. Live this time in the holiday season with a little bit of gratitude when you wake up in the morning. I know it's hard, especially through the days, because life is not easy, but life is a gift. That's what I ended my first book on. Life is a gift, so be grateful for it. So we'll see you next week. Who's on the show
Yes.
next week again, Judy?
Jim and Lisa Lennox, both attorneys, and they're going to be discussing wills and trusts and why it's important to plan ahead.
Wow, that's great. So thank you so much, and we always blow our kisses. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Bye,
God
everybody.
bless you all.
Bye. God bless.
Mi amor, mi amor, mi amor.
conversation, they're all dead. The lines cut off inside my head. I left here like a broken man with no idea of where I stand. Oh, my mind clears. Lord, I shed all of my tears. Oh, now baby, I was just waiting here while you moved on. Security, this newfound freedom you kept from me. The sound of all your loaded guns. This outbreak war has just begun. The sound of all your loaded guns. This broken man has already won. Oh, my mind clears. Lord, I shed all of my